Welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing something called Watching the Vault, debunking the big money myths. We are going to uncover a completely wild reality, why being incredibly, meticulously responsible with your small money might actually be quietly costing you millions of dollars. We're diving deep into the massive structural decisions that literally dictate your net worth. Let's get right into it. Look, we all know the feeling. You've probably done the drill yourself, right? You cancel your streaming subscriptions, you buy chicken in bulk, you might even have a label maker to organize your pantry. You do all this just to save pennies, feeling incredibly guilty about grabbing that occasional $5 coffee. But then, you walk into a dealership and blindly sign away thousands of dollars in interest on a 6.58% loan without even a second thought.
The reality is, we spend our entire lives nervously auditing our change jars. We are so hyper-focused on the pennies, while the heavy steel door to our financial vault stands wide open right behind us. Today, we're going to completely shift that focus. We are going to look at the huge financial traps where your real wealth is actually being drained and figure out exactly what it's costing you. All right, Section 1, the change jar illusion. Let's look at where your money actually goes. Okay, let's break down the hard math for a second. According to the 2024 Bureau of Labor Statistics data, before you buy a single thing you genuinely call your own, half of everything you earn goes to just two decisions: housing at 33.4% and transportation at 17%. Think about that. Over half your income is locked into just those two categories. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates why these big financial myths survive. It is so much cheaper and so much easier for the financial industry to guilt trip you over buying a latte or eating out than to write one honest, rigorous piece about the massive, suffocating cost of your truck. They target the small money because, well, that's where you already feel guilty. Moving on to Section 2, let's meet Otis and talk about credit and car traps. So Otis is a responsible guy trying his best to do the right thing, but he is falling into a massive trap. Otis intentionally carries a $2,000 credit card balance month to month. He absolutely doesn't have to, but he does it on purpose. At an average rate of over 22% interest, he is basically throwing away $443 every single year. It's essentially like paying for a gym membership that you never use, and the gym doesn't even exist. So why on earth does he do it? A U.S. News survey actually found that nearly half of Americans believe this incredibly expensive myth, that carrying a balance builds your credit. Half the country is paying a monthly fee for a service that was never even switched on, entirely under the illusion that it's doing them a massive favor. But here is the crazy reality, right inside FICO's own documentation. Carrying a balance actually raises your credit utilization rate. And since utilization makes up 30% of your score, raising that rate directly harms the exact score you're trying to build. Poor Otis is literally getting billed for the effort of actively lowering his own credit score. But Otis's biggest trap is actually sitting right in his driveway. He believes buying a brand new car is the responsible choice for reliability. But by choosing a hefty new car payment over a solid, reliable used vehicle, Otis isn't just buying transportation. When you calculate that difference invested over 30 years, he is setting over $500,000 of opportunity cost on fire. It's like he's buying a house in installments and just burning it down. All right, Section 3. Let's talk about Julie, housing, and some hidden wealth drains. Julie is the kind of person who meticulously color codes her grocery lists to save pennies, but she is completely blind to silent fees. For example, she firmly believes renting is throwing money away. But historically, American housing as an asset is incredibly unremarkable, growing at just about 0.5% a year after inflation. Owning a home is essentially a forced savings plan that is just riddled with hidden costs. You've got property taxes, an unending 1% annual maintenance cost, and insurance averaging over $2,300 a year. Plus, her first years of the mortgage are almost entirely interest, which means she is really just paying rent to a bank instead of a landlord. And you know, this hidden drain gets even crazier when we look at her investments. Julie pays a financial manager a standard 1% fee, thinking a professional will obviously beat a dumb index fund. But study after study confirms that active managers simply cannot persistently beat a basic, cheap index fund. Over 30 years, on a $500,000 portfolio, the math is just unbelievably cruel. That tiny, seemingly innocent 1% management fee, it quietly steals $820,000 from Julie's future. And the absolute worst part, she will never even see a receipt for the crime.
It doesn't feel like theft because nobody kicks in her door. It simply arrives as a much, much smaller future on a predetermined schedule.
Okay, section 4. Let's look at Andrea and the market timing trap.
Now, Andrea thinks she's being super responsible by holding $50,000 in cash, just waiting for the absolute perfect market dip to invest. But look at this massive Vanguard study. It turns out that investing everything at once, lump sum investing, beats cautiously waiting in over time nearly 70% of the time. And more importantly, both of those strategies completely destroy what Andrea is doing right now, which is just sitting safely in cash.
The thing Andrea is missing is a fundamental truth about investing. The most profitable days in the market are buried inside the absolute scariest months. By waiting for calm, her caution guarantees she's sitting on the sidelines exactly when the real money gets made. Missing just the 30 best days over 3 decades drops your return straight off a cliff. And you know that famous statistic saying average investors lose out by 7% due to bad behavior? Yeah, reevaluations show the actual behavior gap is less than 0.75%. Andrea is essentially waiting at a bus stop where the bus has long since left. Because she refuses to get on, her extreme caution will quietly cost her $46,000 in invisible losses compared to just passively investing it. Again, opportunity cost is literally the only expense in your life that arrives without a receipt and without anyone to even be angry at.
Section 5. Let's tackle the life insurance illusion. Let's look at the quietest trap of all, one that's pitched to responsible people as a bulletproof blend of investment and protection, whole life insurance. But the pitch conveniently leaves out one massive detail. Nearly your entire first-year premium goes directly into the salesperson's pocket as commission. When you buy cheap term life insurance instead and simply invest the difference yourself, you literally double your wealth compared to the dismal bond-like returns of a permanent whole life policy. Finally, Section 6. It's time to start guarding your real vault.
We need to fundamentally rethink where we direct all our financial anxiety. We have been trained to stress over the pennies and ignore the big picture. You've heard of the latte factor, right? The idea that your $5 daily coffee costs you a fortune over time? Well, arithmetically, it's true. Over 30 years, it's about $184,000. But it is a deliberate redirection. It's designed to keep you hyper-focused on your kitchen counter, denying yourself small joys, while the vault door stands wide open behind you, bleeding over $1.5 million to expensive car loans, hidden investment fees, and terrible insurance products.
It is absolutely crucial that you realize this. If you're sitting there right now feeling like you are falling behind, you are not failing. You are not bad with money. You are just diligently and faithfully following an instruction manual that was written by the very people who profit off your mistakes. You were handed a flashlight and told to point it exclusively at the change jar. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative question to help you scrutinize your own life. Going forward, before you blindly obey the traditional financial rules you've been taught, ask yourself this: who is really benefiting when you obsess over the pennies but leave the big vault completely unguarded? Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.